Welcome to On the Porch RVA, based in the RVA, that is Richmond, Virginia, but watching the world. Your host is Tracy Hunley. We believe there's good news hiding in the everyday crazy news, and we feel a responsibility to find and share both. We hope you'll join us. And now, here's Tracy.
Greetings, truth seekers and fellow travelers. Welcome to my humble podcast, RVA, On the Porch. I'd like to pick up with you where we left off last time, and I will review just a smidge of my last point in our last episode. I had spoken of some different ways that the lack of transparency is created. And when the city has determined that someone is to be an HR matter, which often happens with whistleblowers, or in employment contract dispute, one of Richmond's favorites in bygone era, no questions have to be answered, and the respondent can say, "Oh, I'd love to be more helpful, but I really can't answer that." People were released from the city payroll with no charges filed and a "nothing to see here." I've seen the city rep say, "Oh, I'd love to be more helpful, but," with regular lawsuits also. And too often it works. I stood once with a city employee that was talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer said that you basically have to get the city to agree to being sued. And that isn't really our subject, so let me not digress. These responses, HR matter, etc., are all having to do with public requests, like a reporter speaking face-to-face with a representative. And we can occasionally catch up with our city council or school board representative at a public meeting and possibly have a meaningful exchange, but we would more likely be using a FOIA request. FOIA stands for Freedom of Information Act, and it is the citizen's legal method to partake of the rights provided in what are called the Sunshine Laws. Sunshine Laws did not originate with the city government or even the state government. It applies to all government at all levels. Now, Richmond has an interesting history of non-compliance, pseudo-compliance, and partial compliance. At one time, FOIA requests to the Richmond City Hall went completely unanswered. Now, the latest I've heard is that Mayor Avula's administration is developing a library for FOIA requests and tracking, which could be good for transparency, but it could be bad if it creates limitations in what subjects or timeframes can be requested. Limiting what can be requested would tidy things for the city, but would probably be challenged in court. Most FOIA lawsuits are from the person making the request against the government office that refused to comply, or when the government gives an answer with all the juicy bits blacked out and the lawsuit is to push back for more information. Now, I recommend taking a look at the Judicial Watch website for some really amazing examples. They've been at this for a very long time and have uncovered some blockbusters, sometimes taking years of lawsuits. I've included a link to their website and an example. It is a request for the records of a DoD evacuation from Africa during an Ebola outbreak in 2014. That's in the show notes. That's judicialwatch.org. Now, you don't have to get as fancy as this sample. They were dealing with the military. There is no FOIA form, and you don't even have to say FOIA. Just saying the words, "I want to see," to a government employee is enough to legally qualify it as a FOIA request, unless you're talking to an idiot. Now, generally, most lack of transparency is just incompetence or a desire to cover incompetence. Next time we get together, I want to talk more about the different reasons that the government might not want that transparency. So one of the more recent scandals in Richmond involves Connie Clay, the city's Freedom of Information Act officer, until she was fired in January of 2024. She sued the city in March 2024 for wrongful termination because she was complaining that the city was not properly replying to legitimate FOIA requests. The FOIA were flying fast and furious at the end of 2023 because of the meals tax scandal. You'll remember that. According to Clay, the requests for info were being distributed by her to the appropriate officers and then being mishandled or ignored. There are strict federal deadlines on the different steps of handling a FOIA, and Clay had no choice but to complain or be complicit. So the case will be going forward to trial later this year, and the city is paying its lawyers $475 an hour. The last bill they sent to the city, $234,000, and that was in May of 2025. The details of these shenanigans in court, even so far, are incredible. For example, they told the judge that a city cell phone containing evidence had been lost. Follow-up FOIA city documents uncovered that it had been reported as found in a New York airport, and the city knew it. That phone, being under a judicial hold order, was pretty important, right? According to reporting in the Richmonder, as of this recording, it's been 3 weeks since the city learned that there's proof that they were aware of the location of this phone. Curious minds, and perhaps the court, have not been told if the city recovered it or even asked for it back. Why that phone is important is a convoluted story, which I won't go into here. But thank you to intrepid reporter Graham Muma. Sir, if I mispronounced your name, I apologize. Now, if you don't follow him on X, you should. His name is spelled GRAHAMMOOMAW. So, making a FOIA request is free. Anybody can do it. There's a page on the city website with guidelines and stipulations. You'll want to give thought to exactly what you want to know, because you'll need to be very specific about what you want, where you want them to look for it, and the time frame. In the government's point of view, all of this specificity is to create as small an amount of search results as possible to minimally meet the requirement. From our point of view, being super specific means you're not paying for something you don't want, because yes, this is where payment comes in. If you said, I want to know everyone Mayor Stoney sent emails to in the week of February 5th through 9th, you'll be charged according to how many hours it takes to pull that list, and they'll throw in a charge for resources. If you say, I want a copy of every email that Mayor Stoney sent to or CC'd to Beulah Ballbricker in 2023, then that cost will be higher because it causes more time to be spent searching further. Our representatives need to be reminded that we want sunshine in our politics. It helps everyone stay honest, but that's not the only reason. Thanks for dropping by, and shoot me an email if you've thought of a FOIA request and want a second opinion. If you just want to talk about Beulah Ballbricker, I can help you. And I'll catch you later. Have a happy new year.
On the Porch is produced and directed by John Hundley. Your host is Tracy Hundley. Please subscribe on Rumble or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. Please email tomatlh@outlook.com if you know of an event or trend we should discuss. On the Porch, RVA is a 2026 Toma Studios production.